Hello, welcome to the AMA. We're gonna let in a few. Here we go. We're gonna let in a few people, and we're gonna get started here. Before we start, Tran sent me a video. She wanted me to show this video to you. Got something about like move or something like that. Let me find the tab here. Okay. Something about, I don't know. Let's see what this is. Oh no. No turn.
Get it, cuz.
Oh my goodness. That is highly inappropriate. Okay. Let's get that off the screen. I would like to apologize to the viewers who are currently watching. I can assure you I no longer live that life. This is highly unusual. This will have to be dealt with later with. Unfortunately, these things just happen. I don't know. I have no idea how that got in there. But with that said, we've got an AMA to do today. We've got some work to do. So my name is Sam Carlton. I'm a board member of Techlahoma, and welcome to the Techlahoma Expert AMA. Today, the way this format is going to work, we've got two sources of questions. We've got the Slack member questions, which you guys can actually vote on and just drop a number in the Slack thread for on the events channel to vote on which questions we want to ask first. And then we've got live questions from Slack thread, and then you guys can ask questions live here as well. And you can also drop them in the chat, and we'll get to those. So what exactly is this about today? Well, everybody knows about there's so much noise around AI. Everybody's already familiar with just there's all these promises from it, and it's supposed to be so special. But then it kind of doesn't turn out to be very special. It just kind of turns out to be like, okay, this is just like fancy suggested words. And so everybody knows it's important, but it seems like people, like when you hear people talk about it, they lean into either the buzzwords or the overly technical terms. So enter Ashley. So Ashley is a TEDx speaker. She served with as Accessible Emerging Technologies Lead for PEAT. She's delivered over 100 talks, including at South by Southwest and Harvard, and she's played violin since the 4th grade. And she had a chance encounter in NYC with Alexis Bledel of Gilmore Girls fame, who casually walked by her and smiled. So basically, she is confirmed to be on the Gilmore Girls reboot. Ashley is an expert at making AI understandable and digestible. So everybody say hello to Ashley.
Hello. I would love for everyone to drop in the chat where they're joining from, if it's Oklahoma City or Norman or Tulsa or Arkansas, wherever you are. Edmond, cool. Yeah. OKC, love it. Hello from Norman. Oh, we got the great group here.
That's cool. So we're going to roll in, and I like that, Edmond with Molly. So we're going to roll in. And Ashley, tell us a little about yourself. Give us your own bio.
Yeah. So I'm Ashley Coffey. I'm the CEO of Coffey Consult. We're a local technology consulting firm, but working globally. We help small and medium-sized businesses leverage technology for efficiency and profitability. So that can mean everything from a software tech stack assessment to AI training to implementing and building AI policies that protect businesses, especially those that have a little bit of regulation from the SEC, including venture capital. So my experience is very deep in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. I've been in technology for over 15 years. When I was in college, I worked at a little known company named Apple from 2010 to 2016. When I joined the company, Steve Jobs was still alive, and he would send out emails to the entire company as if he was just talking to you like a normal person. I wish I kept that email, but that was a very formidable experience for me that helped me understand that I wanted to make technology a career, because I can understand how technology people can bridge the gap between technology and people, but it takes a special person to be able to do that, and a special person to be able to help others feel more confident about their technology uses. So that's why I decided to create Coffey Consult here in Oklahoma City about 2 years ago. And we've helped over 15 clients across the US improve their AI usage, improve their emerging tech usage, whether that be through augmented reality, virtual reality, or mixed reality, or 3D scanning, or photogrammetry, or automation. Emerging tech is quite a large spectrum. So that was one part of my life. I used to be an emerging technologies librarian at the University of Oklahoma from 2018 to 2020. And I loved working with faculty, staff, and students on how to leverage emerging technologies for instruction, research, and projects. Most people don't know that the makerspace within the University of Oklahoma, if you're a student or faculty, staff, or even a community member, because don't forget, since OU is a public institution, they do welcome members of the community into the library. So anyone can go 3D print anything or use VR for free. And if you're a student, part of your tuition is included in that. So technically, if you're a student, you're paying for it in some way, shape, or form, so use it. I also used to be president of Oklahoma Women in Technology at the beginning. So I saw our membership base go from about 5 to 10 to like where it is now, over 100, and really enjoyed that experience, getting to see the impact of organizations like Techlahoma and other nonprofits that are really doing a great job of connecting the community. So before I dive into anything, I want to say thank you to Techlahoma and every volunteer on the board that does the hard work behind the scenes to make events like these possible. As someone who's been in nonprofit life, I know that most nonprofits are built on the backs of people that are donating their time. Volunteers 100%. So if you're listening and you want to volunteer with Techlahoma, I cannot recommend them highly enough. Whenever someone reaches out to me globally or in the US and says, hey, Ashley, I'm looking to switch my career, or I'm looking to get more connected in the technology community, where do I go to? And I always point them to the Slack channel. It is the most active Slack channel I've ever seen. And trust me, I'm in 9 to 10 Slack channels across the world. And aside from an AI global one, Techlahoma has the best one I've seen. So wanted to give a quick moment to just give you all your flowers and say thank you for all that you do.
Oh, that's really nice. Flowers received. As a guy, I'll take the flowers.
Of course, of course. Yeah, but prior to being a consultant, I used to be a subject matter expert to the Department of Labor Office of Disability Employment Policy. I worked for a consulting firm called Wheelhouse Group. It was a women-owned small business, about 100 consultants based out of Washington, D.C. And the consulting firm got acquired by a global consulting firm called Cadmus. So we went from 100 people to about 5,000 people globally really quickly. And through my experience of working in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors, I realized that I just don't want the corporate life. Mental health is really important to me, and I'm sure everyone else on this call too. And you have to prioritize your mental health. And I was making 6 figures, but so sad and depressed. So I decided to leave that all behind and start from scratch. So it's been really hard, but really rewarding. And if anyone knows entrepreneurship, it's a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but I'm incredibly grateful for the community of Oklahoma City and for the businesses and clients that we work with that trust us to be that leader in AI and technology, and more importantly, ethical and responsible AI adoption. Yeah. Because we're moving so quickly that we're not asking the questions that need to be asked currently. So you can go online and find my 2 TEDx talks that I've given. My first TEDx talks was about cultivating women's empowerment with technology, TEDx OU in 2019. The second one is how to spot AI misinformation. That is at TEDx UCO in January of 2024. And the purpose of that TEDx talk was to help prepare for where we're at right now, where we have so much AI misinformation, and even having a SORA watermark isn't doing it. People are still unable to differentiate real from fake. Yeah. So I'm big about digital literacy, and please do watch it or share it with a family member that needs a little help of understanding media literacy and digital information literacy.
I've heard people will share these like dance videos that are completely AI, and people believe it's real. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. And then they pass it on. Right? It's crazy.
Yeah. So Denmark right now is the only country that has protections on the likeness of your face. So as someone who has worked deeply in policy and legislation, I did have an opportunity to work on the first AI Bill of Rights and the AI blueprint when I was a corporate consultant. Like I said, providing support to the Department of Labor, and we worked really heavily with policymakers and researchers worldwide on trying to build something that works. And unfortunately, a lot of that work has been erased, just to be transparent. But the thing is, we all have the opportunity to express our voices. And I do encourage everyone to be involved when it comes to policy and legislation, specifically around AI, because it's not going to happen on a federal level, and it's really down to the states. So if you have questions about AI policy, I'm more than happy to answer them. I don't have all of the answers, and if I don't know, I'll help find someone that maybe does. But really, I'm here for you all today. I'm really here to answer questions and make this worth your time.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. That's quite that's a little bit more than even I knew about. I knew you had quite a history and quite a lot of experience.
I also have 2 podcasts. I mean, I could go on for a lot, but I want to, the thing is, like, you can search about me online, right? But I can't search about all you all online. I love getting to know where everyone is from and what everyone is doing. What are some of the things that are on your mind right now with regard to AI, and burning questions or things that you've been thinking about. So I'm highly accomplished. I hate talking about myself, but thank you for allowing me to introduce myself.
Well, and we'll get started with a preloaded question just to warm us up here. So the first question we have is it okay to use AI if it wastes so much water? That's a big concern. People have talked about it. Like you talk about AI and it's just like, well, I don't like wasting water. I don't like, damaging the earth and things like that.
I don't either. Yeah. I'm a big purveyor of staying hydrated 24/7. Yes. And we're really at a pivotal point right now of trying to figure out alternative energy usages. And honestly, the only thing that is going to be able to provide a higher energy resource than water is nuclear energy. And you already see companies that are leasing out 3 Mile Island for 24 years or X amount. So companies are being in a position right now for already being in scarcity of water. Water is our most precious resource. So we do need to protect it, but it doesn't mean Bob over in Weatherford, Oklahoma, if he doesn't use AI today, he's not going to save the world with that. It's great to think about saving things by not using them, but just because someone else does it doesn't mean other. So we have to create a more sustainable solution to the problem, is what I'm trying to say. And that's where we as people do have the voice to be able to do something. So for example, in Oklahoma, very little AI policy and legislation, but there is opportunity to say, hey, what if we came together and said that we would like to build some kind of policy or legislation around protecting some of the natural non-man-made water resources in Oklahoma against data centers. Oklahoma is very ripe right now. There's a lot of interest in Oklahoma from the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, because we have such a high amount of property. The cost of living is low. There's a lot of agricultural property as well. If you look at the Panhandle, we have a lot of farmers. We have a lot of wind farms. We have a lot of solar farms. So we're really converging at a point now where I do think we need to protect our resources a little bit more than we already are. So I'm not going to give a direct answer on do I think it's bad to use AI. You have to make your own decision. It's bad when I go drive my car and contribute to the CO2 outcome of that, but I have to drive my car for work. I have to drive my car for a livelihood. We just don't have a black and white system of being able to make everything great. And I wish we did, but I do think it's really going to be up to us as people to push for the things that we believe are right, because no one else is going to do it.
Yeah, that's a good answer. It's a hard question, and I like to start off with that a little bit, so we're just making an honest discussion.
Yeah,
and I feel like you hit it out of the park. So first up, let's do this let's do it this way. So you guys drop in your questions into the chat, and then we'll go in the order of people who had like sent their question first. And
Sure.
since Josh asked to do his question first, I'll have you go right now.
Yeah.
So Josh, go ahead.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi,
Thanks
Josh.
for hosting this, Sam. Yeah, I lead our AI user group through Techlahoma with Ryan here and a couple of others in the community.
Awesome.
I'm a mobile engineer at YouVersion. And what I wanted to talk about is now as we do more AI features, AI empowered features. So right now we're doing like AI moderation for comments. So we send the comment off to Gemini to make sure it's safe, and then we post it. However, what we're seeing is that our legal team is getting more and more involved in trying to tell and assess risk. So in the past, they kind of don't really care about what features we're doing, but now we're finding that they are raising concerns. And so it's like, how do we manage that relationship? How do we educate them? Because sometimes it feels like because they lack the understanding of what AI is doing, since it's a black box to them, they like to just like go with full on caution. For example, it's like, hey, we want to like moderate profile pictures. It's within Google's system already. Like Google is now going to use AI to help. And so it's like, how do we, as engineers, one, like understand maybe some of the risks that we should be looking at, like what's actually real, but also how do we help educate and work with them so that it's not just everything's, no AI, we're not going to use any AI features.
Josh, that's a great question. Thank you so much. And as someone who is a software engineer on a very popular application, right? This is a very serious problem to deal with. So you have volume, right? Mm-hmm. You have human in the loop, right? So you're verifying things. So let me get to the core of your question first.
Yeah.
We have a couple of responses. So let's start with legal. You're not wrong. And that lawyers are starting to pay a little bit more attention to AI. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's because of the liability, the risk and the liability on companies is very high. And there has not been a case in the United States on a Supreme Court level to set a precedent for any kind of law. So until then, lawyers are erring on the side of most caution for protection. And here's why. There's a case that happened in Canada. Air Canada is a specific use case. I don't know if you know, they launched a chatbot fabricated information. They went to court because the person that received the information from the chatbot said, I want my $5,000 and I'm making things up, or my round trip ticket to Paris because the chatbot told me so. And the courts determined that because Air Canada created the chatbot, deployed the chatbot, they are responsible for the chatbot, and they are responsible for following through with the fabricated information that it gave to a customer.
Wow.
So that right there signals liability and ownership. So companies want to absolve themselves as much as they can from liability, and it's really hard to do that whenever you're infusing AI into that. And it's especially harder to do it when it's more up to the states than the federal level. And also, not to mention, the companies that I have worked with in Oklahoma, in which I have helped develop AI policies, and they have passed it to their legal team, there is not a person in Oklahoma that I'm aware of that exists that has the technical knowledge on a level to be able to adequately and expertly guide people. All those people are in New York, DC, California. If you find them, great, but you're right. There's a huge gap in knowledge right now, decision makers included, not just legal. It shouldn't be up to you, right? It's not your job, Josh, to educate lawyers, but you can only do so much, right? And for them to know, I think it's about building guidelines and a framework to make everyone happy. Right. So maybe you working with legal team to say, okay, if we can't do X, let's try Y instead, because instead of having a black or white, we now have a gray area of guidelines. So you have to think outside the box in these times and do things that haven't been done before. And it's worth a candid discussion too, just to say, look, things are moving so quickly.
Do you see companies like excluding AI features from like GDPR countries? Because we are global and we have users in every country, like certain AI things are much more restricted in like the UK.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's a really, really great question. So, NIST, the National Institute of Science and Technology, has a risk management framework It's called the RMF. It's available, you can find it. Since it's coming from a reputable, credible institution, use that, I would say, to start a discussion. Just say, hey, this is a framework that was built. How do we build something internally for us to be able to have the flexibility to use AI tools, but not open ourselves up to liability? Right? So maybe you can deploy features in the US before you deploy them, GDPR. But yeah, GDPR is pretty restrictive, as you know, and that's why a lot of companies are enjoying the freedom and flexibility of moving to the United States, because that doesn't exist for them.
That's good. Cool. Next up, we have Austin, who raised his hand. Austin, what you got for us?
Hey, Ashley. Hey.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Austin, good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. It's a Thursday, So
it's Friday Junior.
Right, exactly. Actually, I actually did one of these AMAs, and they were so much fun.
Nice.
So really,
the watchers.
It was a good time. But so I'm a staffing professional here in Oklahoma, and I'm working with all of these companies, and just really kind of wanted to get your opinion, because a lot of our Oklahoma companies are starting to explore AI, and as a staffing partner, I was wondering how I could potentially help guide these clients through the adoption in a way that kind of builds confidence and trust and doesn't really overwhelm, And honestly, there's kind of been some scaredness about it too, right? Because there was a bunch of layoffs with Paycom and everything. And so I see some anxiety in some, I guess, employees whenever they're talking about adopting AI practices sometimes too. Sorry, that's a multi-pronged question for you there.
No,
Ashley.
I like it. Thank you. Thank you, Austin. So let's start with the how to guide people through businesses through AI adoption. It really is about intentionality. What are they trying to adopt and why? So everyone's going to be different, right? If maybe it's a company that is on a server and wants to move to the cloud so they can get capabilities for Copilot. But is Copilot even going to be a solution for them? So it's really about asking what problem are we solving with AI? And if they can answer that, great. If they can't, they need to have a conversation, because a lot of companies are like, yes, AI, and then silence. So if you're going to do AI, do it intentionally and ask what problem it's solving, but you got to get your clients to be able to articulate that. And if they can't, then you need to work in a consulting capacity to really understand the overall operating procedures of the business, the relationships with the employees to their roles, the amount of sensitive data that they deal with. So whenever I work with a company, that's part of my process, is that I meet with every single employee for at least an hour to understand what their role is, what is their relationship to the role, what kind of institutional knowledge they may or may not have, and how many manual processes are they dealing with in their role. So like, for example, accounting or CPA might be dealing with like 50% digital, 50% physical. So I meet with everyone, I take notes and understand where the pain points are, and that gives me more holistic overview of the company itself. And that helps me get to the bullseye and the center of the billiards, or the dartboard, is how do we actually make it intentional for the company. And if you're not talking to the employees, then you're going to miss out on a lot, because the adoption success is only as good as the effort of education. And if you're not putting in any kind of effort on education, then it's just a waste of money, in my opinion. So a part of doing that is I build cheat sheets, like one-sheeter guides for each person after I meet with them, that it's tailored to their learning style. It's meeting them where they are. And that's where we learned a lot about at Apple, of anyone can walk into an Apple store. Doesn't matter if you make $500 or $5 million. Doesn't matter. You can have education on what is an iPhone, or I've never had an iPhone before. It's about how you educate. So I really lean in on education, lean in on what problem are we solving, but also let's take a moment to remind ourselves that we need to think about humanity. And I say that very seriously. We are just in this fourth industrial revolution time, same impact as the iPhone on smartphone industry, same impact as horses when they replaced, or cars when they replaced horses, when the computers came in. This is just a natural cycle of history. History repeats itself, and naturally as humans, we are going to be afraid of the things that we don't know, that we're uncomfortable with. The thing is, AI isn't going away. It's here to stay. And I think it's about how do we build a collaborative relationship that prioritizes human in the loop processes and humanity. Those are two big things. And humanity, it can be mental health, it could be resources, but there's a lot to handle there when it comes to AI. But I do think it's something that we need to remind ourselves that we can't fix everything overnight. And we really still are in the infant stages of AI, if you think about it. Think about 30 years from now where AI is going to be, or even 10 years from now. So hopefully that helps quell some anxiety to know like you're not alone. But that also is great opportunity, because I'm telling students and young people now of like, you can create your own jobs. Jobs that are available to you now didn't exist 5-10 years ago. So get creative, think outside the box, create new services, create new roles. So freedom, flexibility, trade-off. And I really try to help people shift their mindset to curiosity and exploration versus fear, to know like we're trying to make this a collaborative approach. And what I'll do is analogies. Analogies are super helpful for that. So for example, there's a woman that I work with that comes from a background of this is done this way. This is how we've done it for 30 years. Why do I need to change it? And that's a legitimate thing that, you know, you might encounter anywhere you go. And I'll think about it, and I know how that person learns. So I'll say, hey, take an entire day and work with one arm behind your back, like typing your emails, looking for your stuff. Take another day where you're using both of your hands. That is the difference between you using AI and you not using AI. It's meant to help augment your work, to help you go further and faster, not to hinder you. And what I hate companies like Paycom that are doing terrible things like laying off people without notice. We're very unethical use, in my opinion. And a lot of these companies that are doing those things, it's really for marketing and advertising at the end of the day. And a lot of things happen after that, where a cleanup happens. Companies spend more money cleaning up mistakes afterwards than they would have just upskilling and training their employees in the first place. So it's unfortunate that Paycom decided to do that. And I have no empathy for companies that are being ruthless with their employees right now. And that's another reminder, at the end of the day, we're all numbers. So that's why I decided to start my own company, so I don't have to worry about someone else controlling my livelihood. But I know that's not the same for everyone. So I want to empower you with the knowledge to succeed. I hope that maybe helps you a little bit,
Yes.
Austin.
No, that was such a great and thoughtful answer, Ashley. Thank you. You hit on it better than I probably could have. That's why I was asking the question. But yeah, I think I really like the idea of it being like kind of a fourth industrial revolution. I hadn't thought of it that way. I mean, I love the concept of entrepreneurial cannibalism, where, you know, you're going to always have things that come in and take over what was the old, you know, hat of the day. And I really like the idea of being intentional, right? And you hit on the curiosity, right? I always implore everyone to use that. It's my favorite Ted Lasso quote is, be curious, not judgmental. And so I love that, Ashley, and thank you so much for the thoughtful response.
Of course. Thank you. I'm going to put that quote in the chat because that's a good reminder. I like that one. And then I like have the memory of a goldfish, that one too.
Yes.
That's my second favorite one.
Wonderful show.
Yeah, it's for real. Thank you so much, Austin.
That's good. Ryan, let's hear your question.
I didn't come into this meeting with a question, but after listening, I got one. I'm a software engineer. I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm also a dad.
Awesome.
So I find myself in a situation of talking to youth about AI more often than others might, because they know I know about it, right? I'm going to give you a little story. She doesn't know I'm talking about her in public. My 16-year-old crochets, and we were talking about AI and technology, and I was thinking through what would it take to make a crochet robot. She got mad. Like, and this connects to the way she views AI art and AI tools, where it's taking something from the creators. And she thinks, she told me, if I ever make a crochet robot, she will never talk to me again. So I've promised her never to make a crochet robot. I will not do it. You know what I mean? But it's like, there's an attitude that I want to see what your perspective is. How do you talk to the youth about the opportunity that technology offers, especially AI, with their legitimate concern that it's taking something from the creators who came before?
Wow. I'm so glad you brought this up. You said your daughter's 16?
Yeah.
Okay, great age for that. One, crocheting is lovely. So this is a very serious topic that I'm very passionate about. I'm actually doing an AI for parents workshop in January, so TBD on that. But this question comes up a lot, especially when I'm talking to like elementary school students or middle school students or even college students. And I've noticed each age range has its own view of technology or its own relationship with AI, which is great. So one thing that I will say is I think it's good to have a family practice of saying, like, this is how we use AI. This is what we don't use AI for. So I guide people through treating AI like a stranger. So you wouldn't go up to a stranger and give them pictures of your family, pictures of your dog, or you wouldn't tell them like, Mom got mad at me and she won't let me play with the iPad. What do I do? Like, you wouldn't go tell that to a stranger. So I'm trying to help kids understand of like, you want to treat AI as a stranger, especially when it comes to using free tools. We all know the trade-off of free tools. And we all know that companies love child and teen data because it's gold for them, even though it's highly unethical. So I do caution parents on using free AI tools because of that, but also having a framework of discussing, like having an open dialogue. I think that's great that you had that discussion with your daughter, because now you know that she cares about the human in the loop process. Like, she cares about the human contribution to art, which I think is really cool. And I see that she's seeing that opportunity of like, oh no, a robot could take over this, right? Because the human is the part, it's the doing part that is the reward, right? Not necessarily the outcome, which, that's a reward in itself. But I see why she got upset, is because it's like, I don't want to take this fun hobby skill that you're learning away from you, because part of the learning is the process, and that's the enjoyment. So if we don't get to learn anything, where's the fun in that? So I also help people try to have a conversation. So like, what are you using AI for? Like, are you using AI in Roblox? Are you using, because there's so much AI baked into the tools that kids are currently using, and parents can't keep up with what the new things are. Right. So it's a matter of saying like, you know what, I almost got stumped today by an AI generated video of these pigs jumping on a trampoline in a backyard. And then here's how I figured out it wasn't real. But it's good to be transparent about those conversations to let kids know that like, we're all in it together. It's okay to make mistakes, but be very cautious about the information that you're sharing with these tools. And like, I can go on, like, children's brains are still in developmental stages. There's a reason why there's a minimum age requirement on VR headsets and a lot of other technology. It's because children's brains are still developing. And again, we don't have any policy or legislation that's protecting it yet. I am following 2 cases that are currently making their way through the court system right now. One is against OpenAI, and the second one is against Character.ai. One is happening in Florida, and the other one is in Atlanta. The one in Florida, unfortunately, both of these cases stem from teenagers dying by suicide after being coached through ChatGPT or Character.ai. And you can actually go online and read the entire, if you look up Florida Character.ai case, you can download the 93-page motion complaint and it will have your jaw on the floor. Like, I've seen some stuff, but I've never seen anything like this. And if I were a parent, that would have made me turn white. So the fact that there weren't guardrails being built into some of these systems, and it's being met as a reactive measure rather than a proactive measure is very problematic to me. So there was a jury trial demanded for the character.ai case in Florida. It has been pushed forward. And I don't know if anyone saw that Sam Altman was publicly subpoenaed last week on stage during an event as a character witness. I have a strong feeling that has to do with the character.ai case. But it's also, it's very interesting that OpenAI, the OpenAI case for Sam Altman. It's very interesting that OpenAI came out and said that they're going to push out erotica in December. So there's a speed, there's a correlation between the speed of feature rollout and the correlation between the feature rollout and the profit probability, right? There's going to be immense profit probability there, unethically, right? I mean, it's just strange time. We got to be able to have the autonomy to have these conversations with our families about how to spot AI misinformation, how to pay attention to our reactions to things online, right? Having the ability to have a different relationship with our technology that's more harmonious and less violent, I would say. And who's doing that perfectly? No one. Right? It's just about starting the conversation, leaving the door open for it. That way there's comfortability for your daughter to come to you to say, hey, I was doing something online and I was talking to this ChatGPT agent. I just didn't feel like the responses were right or good and made me feel weird. And this is why. Just having that open dialogue, I think, is really important to be preventative before these things happen. Because I mean, that motion complaint that I read through, it talks through the psychological behavior that these children experience before they unfortunately passed away. And it all stems to do with parents taking away their phones and parents taking away their ability to interact with these chatbots. And it's leading to like unseen violent behavior, withdrawal. I have a lot of friends who are clinical psychologists, and it's appalling the things that we're seeing right now. So I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan. I don't have an answer for you, but I will say if you want to look for any resources, Europe, actually there's an organization called For Humanity, FORHUMANITY. Ryan started that a few years ago, all volunteer. He quit his banking job to start this, to try to help protect kids across the globe. So they have a risk management framework system, but that's a really good place to kind of dive in a little bit deeper if you're wanting to continue the conversation, Ryan.
Yeah, that was a really good answer. I didn't know about half of that, so I definitely didn't know about the Sam Altman subpoena. That's getting crazy. I had a follow-up question before. While we're waiting for the next person to raise their hand. Who is actually doing AI right and the safest? If it's not an AI company, who's making the rules that are like good and like the strongest set of rules and like the leading edge of like, this is how to keep it safe and ethical and do it the right way with the least amount of harm?
Yeah, I just dropped a link in the chat to the motion of that character.ai case if anyone wants to read that. But right now, if we're talking about US companies, I will say Apple is doing a good job. They recently just went through a series of benchmarking all of the language learning models between Anthropic, Gemini, and ChatGPT to see which one is going to be best to integrate into Siri. And I appreciate that they're doing it intentionally. We all know Siri sucks and they need to improve that. And we all know Apple's been a little bit behind on the AI front, and it's because they're doing it the right way and they're doing it ethically. So there's going to be trade-off to some of those things. And as someone who has worked for Apple, I've seen the level of security and privacy the company has, not just on employees, but everything. So I do have a level of trust and loyalty built in because of that. When it comes to other companies, I really like the Remarkable company. They make the Remarkable tablet device. Yeah, they have actually a really good statement at the footer of their website. It's an AI transparency statement, kind of similar to a privacy policy. But I'm starting to see this more often of either building its own dedicated AI policy or baking in an AI policy into the terms and conditions or the privacy policy, just to say, if you're going to use our website, you know, we use AI to filter through comments to see if they're applicable or not, or we use AI to do XYZ. All of that is voluntary right now. There are no requirements in the US for those to disclose AI. The only current policy and legislation that exists for any industry is for venture capital firms currently. And there are some restrictions on how venture capital firms can use AI tools. And it has to do with relationships to publicly available data and making investment decisions. So that's the first thing that I've seen for an industry to put something into place, which is obviously very applicable. But no one is doing it perfectly. Some people are doing it okay and great, but there's no like a gold standard I've seen as of yet. Yes and no. So Molly asks in the chat, does the VC restriction trickle down to their portfolio companies? No, it doesn't. So let's say you have a cap table and you're wanting to do some assessments on a cap table and compare a cap table to 3 or 4 different operating agreements from the past 5 years of the company. Like, venture capital data is highly nuanced data. And some of the information that you deal with AI shouldn't do anything with that, just because of the nature of the VC world and how nuanced it is. So if it has to do with venture capital decisions when making investments, and you're dealing with non-publicly available information, that could be an SEC violation. But it does not trickle down to the companies. The companies that the companies are investing in need to have their own AI policy for their own protection. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's good. I wanted to like also back you up on the Apple stuff. It's very, as an engineer who watched WWDC and have used the Apple foundational models that run on your device, totally private, it's pretty stark to see all these news articles about how Apple's failing at AI, and it's really confusing. So they're actually doing a lot. They just have to like get all of their developers and all the App Store people to start using AI stuff.
There's been a huge surge of jobs, like Apple jobs in Cupertino. And don't forget, Apple has a headquarter in Austin too. It's mainly, it's not really developer stuff. It's more service support, HR. But don't forget, you know, Apple has a lot of jobs that are available right now because they're shifting a lot of things to be in position to have the best talent.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see. It's giving very much a tortoise and the hare. Like Apple's trying to play the tortoise.
But they're playing the long game.
Yes, exactly.
So let's not forget the M1 chip came out of research and development for the Apple Vision Pro.
It is the best chip for AI in mobile phones, in my opinion.
For sure.
They haven't started using it, but it's got the most power in the average device.
Yeah.
Tran actually had a question, similar to the water question up front that we had up front. How can I feel better about the environmental impact of AI usage?
How can I feel better about the environmental impact on AI usage? Okay. Okay, here's one thing. I feel better when I don't use please and thank you in my prompts anymore. Okay. That was a thing that came out, you know, when everything first started happening. It's going to waste things. So try to be here's what you can do. We can feel better about our AI usage if we put more effort into our prompts.
That's good.
I see people put a lot of lazy prompts together and they get frustrated because AI isn't working for them. So you got to put forth the effort. So stop using please and thank you and be more concise in your prompts and be more detailed in your prompts. So that way you're having to use less queries each time you ask it a question. That's the one thing we can do to feel a little bit better about our usage.
Explain the nuance there, because I feel you said concise and detailed sounds more verbose, like more words. But the nuance you're talking towards, like talk about that a little more. So like both concise and detailed.
Yeah. So people are like, I watch people prompt and it
Mhm.
blows my mind. Yeah, succinct. Succinct might be a better word. I watch people use this and I see people use it like 1 word, 2 words, 1 sentence. So you can, let's say, what are you trying to accomplish, right? How do we get there? Are we using the role text context formula? And if so, role text context, do you have the nuanced detail necessary for the role, the text, the context for it to do its job? So I think if we go through that process each time to make our prompts more succinct, concise, it could be, maybe succinct is a better word than concise, but detail is important. So I'm more than happy to put together a prompt that's a paragraph in length, because all of that is necessary for whatever it is I'm trying to do, because a lot of this stuff is highly nuanced. And I think that's where a lot of people get frustrated, is they're not sharing the context and the nuance of detail and the data, and they're getting frustrated when they don't get the results that they want, because we're humans, we miss things. A lot of things can get lost in translation between our brain and typing it out in our fingers. And that's why I encourage people to use the multimodal capabilities of a lot of these AI tools, because I think that could really help bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's really good. And I wanted to follow up. Fran says this all aligns with the CompTIA AI prompting course I just took, actually. Oh, shout out to CompTIA.
What?
And
Amazing.
drop a link to that course in the show notes. Yeah, I was going to say also, as we progress further into this AI journey, use offline models. Use the models the things that run on your phone, because all the stuff in data centers is optimized for power, and when you get the models on your phone, or you use something like LM Studio, you can actually have the model locally and running, and it's not zero environmental impact, but it's a lot less. It's a lot more efficient.
And that's very rare use case, I would say, for people that have the technical expertise to run a physical server of like a closed off language learning model. I will say though, to Molly Carricker earlier that had that question about VC firms. So this is the joy of technology. Like, some things apply, some things don't. So if we were to build a closed off model that only physically exists within the office of the financial data, that would be fine, because it only exists within the office, within the data, and it's not being infused into ChatGPT. That most companies, to be honest, just don't have the budget for that. Yep. And they don't have the data for that, or the data is so dirty because they haven't been keeping track of it.
They got to clean it. They got to set up a RAG pipeline. They got to set up a whole system.
But yes, that's also another option. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I wanted to ask a follow-up question while we're waiting for the next person to get their question ready. Something you mentioned earlier with Austin's question is about articulating an AI plan. And one thing I feel like I see from executives is that they know how important it is, but they don't. They still fall into the trap of using this kind of buzzword soup for AI things. And so
we love buzzword soup.
Yeah, we love that's just all about the buzzword soup in the tech field, and especially when it comes to AI, everybody wants to sound like they really know what they're talking about. So with that in mind, what are some, maybe a litmus test or a way to be honest about how articulate you're being as a decision maker, as like someone driving forward like an AI plan for an organization?
Yes. So we're introduce something called AI governance. That is very new, and a lot of companies have no idea where to start with this, but it's incredibly important. I would akin it to human in the loop process. Also, everyone on this call, please start using that more often, because I'm really trying to help people understand human in the loop processes and how important they are. So anything that you're doing with AI should have a human in the loop process, is my recommendation there. But the AI governance prospect here, it's really just an overarching strategy that defines the goals and direction for AI within the organization. And it involves an implementation roadmap too. So how is AI going to be integrated? What are we going to be using it for? And is it going to be nationally or specifically in the office? What is the purpose of implementing AI? What's the scope? what kind of roles and responsibilities, data handling, risk management, appropriate use, non-appropriate use, accountability and consequences, ethical principles. There's a lot of things that go into this. And honestly, we all know HR is not equipped for this. So, and to be honest, most companies that I work with don't even have an IT team. So like I would say 20% of them don't have an IT team because they are the IT team. So they don't have time for this, but it's necessary. Right now, like I said, it's voluntary. If you're looking for a place to start when it comes to AI governance, then I highly recommend going to forhumanity.center. And this has a lot of freely available information to help you get that going, no matter what organization you're in or what you're doing. I could talk about For Humanity for a long time, but I just recommend everyone go check it out. There are certifications and exams that you can do to be a certified AI auditor. This is a role that isn't really emerging yet. On the East and West Coast it is, but in Oklahoma, not at all. AI auditors are actually people that can go in as independent third-party auditors to audit AI systems. So this organization is credited with the ability to give out those credentials, and you have to go through like a course for it as well. So take a look at that. There's a code of ethics, there's contributors, there's resources, there's a AI and education training center. So really my answer is I don't have all the answers, but start here.
That's good. I like that. We're coming up on the end of the hour here. I wanted to make sure we included this question Tran suggested. So with all this AI things are kind of getting reset, and so there might be technology opportunities for new people that they didn't have before. So how can women and underrepresented groups leverage new opportunities for upward mobility with AI?
Always negotiate is my answer. So reminder to everyone that everything is negotiable. And I always tell people that whenever they're having job interviews with people, you got to negotiate this stuff up front. Like, do you have a budget for my professional development? Or do you have a professional development budget for the department? You have to communicate that learning is really important to you and that you need to be empowered by your employer to continue with that learning. So I encourage everyone to think through, what is that one conference you would go to if you got the chance to do it? What is that one certificate that you would do if you had the extra money? And build that, because no one's going to come to you and be like, what do you want money for, right? No, you have to be able to communicate that. So if you can say, I want to have a $500 budget built in for my role that includes 2 hours of time every month set aside that's paid for me to learn the latest new AI tool, and you'll pay for one certification out of the year, and then we'll go from there. So you just have to start asking these things and putting them into your employment contracts just to get them. Think of it as like, you know how musicians will have what's called writers whenever they go perform, like, I want guacamole that's room temperature, and I want limes from Africa. Like, you can do that with this. Like, you have to ask for these things. So if your company doesn't already have it, try negotiating it. If we own our own professional development. No one else is going to own that. And different companies have different levels of empowerment when that happens. So if you aren't supported financially or time-wise, then look at the local opportunities that are available to you, like Techlahoma, the free conferences, the virtual conferences, look at the free certifications, and just show that you're taking initiative of interest and curiosity. Honestly, I think that goes such a long way. Like Tran, she took the certification. And if I were an employer that was hiring, that speaks volumes to me that someone took the initiative to just get certified and learn a little bit more. But they didn't have to, is the thing. But we are really in a competitive employment market that this is going to mean a big difference between someone taking the initiative to, like Google. I went to the Google event on Friday. They just launched all these new Google AI courses in partnership with OSU and a lot of other organizations, the Tool System Alliance. So there's these things happening that people aren't talking about. So I think it's really up to us to also share those freely available resources to one's like, because we all have different cards that we're dealt, and my answer is going to be dependent on what is the support of your employer. But as someone who's an entrepreneur, who pays for my own way to conferences, who pays for my own way to all of that stuff, there's ways to make it happen. You know, if there's a will, there's a way. Visibility is opportunity, right? So when I started becoming my own boss, I still pay for my flight and everything, but I might share an Airbnb with some colleagues that I've known in a nonprofit world or that I've worked with in XR. I'm actually going to Brussels, Belgium in December for an XR AI event and staying with some friends in the XR industry. That saves some money. I'm speaking on a panel, so that means that I don't have to pay for a conference ticket. So you can volunteer, you can speak. There are ways to be able to get to conferences that matter to you if you're limited on budget.
That's good. And then Molly said, ask the vendor for business value use case doc. Usually they have one.
Exactly. That's a really good thing. Business use case. Also, if you're hiring a company to do anything AI for you, please call the references. Please. There's so many fly-by-night people that I've seen that have come out of the woodworks that are suddenly AI cybersecurity experts, and I know they're not. So definitely do your due diligence so that you're saving yourself and your company time, money, and energy, not just now, but down the road.
That's really good. Are there any, so you said, like building on that, always negotiate. Are there any resources or books or anything like that you would recommend to start with on this negotiation journey and understanding your value, understanding how to present your value and be reasonable about it and like fight whatever resistance may come up?
Yeah. And just know that like nothing is perfect, right? I have a bunch of resources that I like to share that aren't behind any paywalls or anything. I'm going to drop it in the chat here. coffeyandconsult.com/resources. So there's a lot of reports here. Like, for example, every year Microsoft releases the Work Trends Index report. And that right there gives a lot of indication of data. Like, for example, the 2024 Microsoft Trends report said 75% of global users are currently using AI. I imagine in 2026, the 2025 data is going to be much higher. So these are really important things to be looking at and consuming to see what is the market validation of some of these tools. So go to my website. I have a 4T AI optimization matrix that's meant to help people move the needle. If you're looking for resources that are beyond kind of what's available here, Google search, Google I Am Remarkable. That is a freely available workshop that is open to anyone and everyone. And it helps you become a little bit more comfortable with talking about your accomplishments and negotiating. I did it in 2021. It's free. And I had a great experience. And that right there helped me be a little bit more comfortable with talking about my accomplishments and being able to negotiate and put things on the table. But, going through a lot of different companies and negotiating, like I've seen what works, I've seen what doesn't, but I've seen that people that ask for what they want and they get it. And if you don't ask for what you want, how do you expect to get it? So what's the worst that they can say is no. You might as well ask. And that goes with also reasonable accommodations as well. For example, when I was a corporate consultant, I asked the Department of Labor to pay for my Otter.ai subscription, which was $250 a year because I have ADHD, because I was expected to take notes on a meeting and participate in a meeting. That's a lot to do. So just know that like reasonable accommodations do extend to software, but you have to be the one to be able to say, I need this software because of XYZ. So hopefully that helps everyone on the call just a little bit.
No, that's really good. And I'd be remiss if I didn't represent the brand and shout out Oklahoma AI user group here in Tulsa.
Yes.
And in OKC. It's a dual user group. And then also the OK Coders program, which we're rolling
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Like,
OK Coders program is amazing. I cannot say enough great things about it. And it's been going on for so long, too. I feel like it has such a good community base, too.
Yeah. And we're updating the curriculum to have some actually useful AI education in there. I personally wanting to get some tokenization. Yes, OK Coders Pro represent. With that, I got some housekeeping to do. So next week we have Jordan Eggstad, whose company recently launched, did a relaunch for the vClaude website, as in the vClaude, the Anthropic, and he's going to be talking about branding, like digital branding, November 20th at noon. So exactly 1 week minus an hour from now. Since we can only let in so many people, Techlahoma members will get first access as a thank you for supporting the community, and then we'll let in people from Techlahoma Slack. For everyone else, there'll be a live stream you can watch. I wanted to thank everyone, like the Techlahoma members in the meeting, and then you all help us do events like these and provide education, including AI education, to Techlahoma. And then I want to thank Ashley.
Thank you. Can I take a picture of everyone?
Yeah, sure.
Yay. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Okay, cool. Thank you. I move so quickly these days that I need to take pictures to remember moments.
Well, I wanted to call it out. It was just like, this was, you didn't get paid for this. I'm certain you have gotten paid for your engagements, and so this is something that she volunteered to do, and just to help us out and help out you guys give some education. So I wanted to appreciate and recognize that. Also, she accepts Cash App and Apple Pay.
Thank you. I have a soft spot for nonprofits, and especially Techlahoma. But also part of my business, one of my pillars is that when I work with nonprofits, I do 10% flat rate discounts to make our services a little bit more approachable to nonprofits. But know that if you have a question that you weren't able to ask today, you can find me online. Feel free to email me, or I'm happy to connect you with people outside of the Oklahoma ecosystem and different industries. What I love about technology is that it's discipline agnostic. The only industry I don't work with is healthcare, just because of HIPAA and liability. That's just a hot mess express, and I'll leave that for the experts that deal with healthcare on a daily basis. But I appreciate you all taking time out of your days. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for continuing to make Techlahoma a premier nonprofit in Oklahoma that's truly representing the Silicon Prairie shift that we're seeing today.
That's good. Appreciate that. We'll have Ashley's website, contact info, and then the resources that she mentioned in the show notes. And with that said, go outside, put some grass, get some sun today, go on a walk, drink some water. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.